Welcome to another episode of the Weekly Crypto Check-In, recorded on October the 23rd, 2024. I'm your host, Robert Swarthout, and I'm joined by my co-host, Andres Sandate. How is it going, Andres?
Hey, Robert. It's good. It seems like we're back in the summer, though, here in Atlanta. Got really warm out today, but I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing good. Yeah, I think it definitely warmed up these last few days, but I think next week is looking like it's back to our fall / hinting at winter. So
yeah,
we will see. I've appreciated the coolness. It's been nice being outside and not feeling like you're going to lose 10 pounds sweating. So
right. Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's just jump in. So first topic for today is Bitwise has updated their XRP ETF S1. Not tons of news here beyond they've updated it, started to talk a little bit about custody, and this kind of the more, I guess, general things in it. To me, the big news item here is that it actually is getting feedback and they're doing revisions, which means they feel like it can move forward and the SEC may not get in the way. We will find out, obviously, as time goes on. But for a while there, I was like, with the SEC doing the appeal, which we can talk about here in a minute, it was kind of up in the air. But, they did they filed this, and I imagine there'll be a couple of revisions before they have a chance to truly launch it. So,
yeah. Well, having been through a process or two in my career of filing these types of offerings with the SEC, anytime you get comments, that's a good thing, right? Because you submit them, the lawyers submit them for you, and then you're just kind of playing the waiting game. So they have to respond on certain deadlines. The SEC does, at least. Right. That's kind of the typical model. And you want to be getting comments and having back and forth as an issuer or somebody building a product. You want to be getting feedback from the SEC. So yeah, it is an overall good sign that there's updates and there seems to be some traction.
Yep. They appointed who's going to execute trades in buying the physical XRP. It's a Venue Prime execution agent. And they will be doing Bitstamp, Kraken, and Coinbase in an exchange called LMAX, which I have not heard of. So I kind of thought that was odd. There will be creating these in blocks of 10,000 shares. So nothing crazy, but I guess maybe a bit of news here in it is they do call out regulatory uncertainty around the XRP Ripple case and the SEC doing their appeal. So it's the same. Obviously, it's a different department within the SEC, but it's the same organization that's fighting and approving this, or fighting XRP and Ripple, and then potentially approving this. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting. We'll find out. I would imagine the next month or so how this is going to go, whether it's going to get drawn out or it's going to kind of get to move through. So we will see. Next topic, just kind of a cool milestone. So the Bitcoin ETFs that launched in January, we talk about these things a ton.
Yeah.
And they have, as of last week, they crossed 20 billion of net total net flows. So that's pretty amazing, considering I think the wild, crazy numbers we were hearing in January predictions were going to be like 5 or 10. It is. Just this last week, BlackRock's IBIT did $1.5 billion itself. So pretty crazy.
Yeah, I think we talked about this last week. There was a one day, I think IBIT, BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF brought in over $500 million. I think Fidelity in one day brought in 272, close to 273 million. So these are huge numbers. I don't know what Bitcoin is at today. I checked earlier in the week and it was at 68,000, kind of in that range. Is it still hovering around there?
65 and change.
Okay, so it's pulled back a little bit, but yeah, it's I've been seeing headlines in the crypto news cycle about Bitcoin is now its own asset class within like a more modern portfolio allocation, right? It used to be 70-30 or 60-40, where sort of your that was the holy grail, maybe a generation ago of a portfolio stocks and bonds, right? Everything listed. Now you hear everything from, 50, 30, 20, 20 being alternatives, to now you're seeing portfolios with a 1, 2, 3% allocation coin. And our friends over at BlackRock, are talking about that. So it's interesting
Yeah.
just in this short period of time where crypto has, become more available through the Bitcoin ETFs, just how that portfolio discussion has evolved. So
Yeah, it's it is crazy to kind of see how it has evolved. If you start looking at like trying to put this in context, what does 20 billion really mean, right?
right,
If you start really breaking them apart, BlackRock is more than 50% higher than the second place. Like it is quickly becoming a one horse race here. Not truly, but it quickly drops off from basically year-to-date flows for BlackRock were 22, and then 10 for Fidelity. Then ARK is at 2. Like quickly, I mean, like to the point where you would expect over maybe the next 6 months, maybe some of these lower ones that basically have effectively no flows would maybe start winding them down. I'm not quite sure what the advantage of having one is when you don't have any assets. So
yeah. I mean, at a certain point, you're
yeah.
funding, keeping the product open. You got a lot of regulatory filings. You got a lot of expenses, board meetings, legal
Yeah.
expenses. So, there are a lot of bigger ETF issuers that have, dozens, and dozens of ETFs, and some are bigger and some are
Yeah.
smaller. It's a
Yeah.
question of, do they want to have something in like each of these bigger, newer categories? And they'll justify like sort of having a loss leader, right?
Yeah. And I guess it's just so we're super clear. This is net. So we have a huge negative number for Grayscale. They're
Right.
at negative 20 billion by themselves. As a whole, if you drop Grayscale out, it's almost 40 billion in net inflows. Obviously, some of that came from the Grayscale flows kind of days later, but it's just crazy to kind of see the scale. Collectively, the ETFs are approaching 86% of the total holdings that the number one wallet, Satoshi, holds. That is probably a wallet that will never move, would be my guess. So it's you're quickly getting centralized in a decentralized world. So
Yeah. There's a lot to play out still, I think, around that very topic, which we'll be covering, I would assume, more and more in the years ahead.
Yep.
But you have to be careful what you tweet. Is the
Yeah.
lesson from number 3, because the Justice Department, the feds, they will find you. So I know we talked about this one offline, but there was an arrest in the fake ETF announcement that went viral and caught crypto by storm in those early days of speculation.
Well, it ended up being that fake tweet was the hacked account of the SEC the day before they officially proved it. So it was like right in the moment. Did it actually materially change anything? Probably not.
Right.
For this one big guy, it's changed a lot, I'm sure.
Sure.
So yeah, like an Alabama man was caught. If you'd have asked me to pick the state, if this person was from the United States, I would have assumed they were not even from the United States. But to think that someone in Alabama did this blows my mind. It would just seem like
I
it's
don't
some
know
country.
anything about. Go ahead.
I was going to say I would assume some country that we have no extradition rights on to be able to get a criminal. Where it would have come from. So
yeah, I am curious to learn more about this individual, like their background. If nothing else, just how did you? Not that we'll ever know, right? But like how brazen to go and hack the SEC's account and then issue this fake tweet. So but yeah, it's going to be spending a lot of time thinking about that. It sounds like he's going to be going away for a bit of time.
You would think, and the part that I'm really curious about is like, obviously the motivation was likely to make money. If there was no financial motivation, then this is absolutely insane. I'm sure that will come out when the true charges get released and all the details come along. But it'll be interesting to see how much money he thought he made, because it's all going to be gone.
Yeah. Well, Ripple is back in the news. So I know we've got a couple of announcements on stable coins or stablecoin related topics. So let's jump into this one.
Ripple was they're on the cusp of launching their stablecoin RLUSD. they're specifically, or Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO, has said that they are at this point only waiting on the New York Department of Financial Services, I think DFS,
Yeah.
to approve their application or whatever it is. They're waiting on them. And in an interview, because Ripple just did their conference last week, Brad was interviewed off, in like a side interview, saying that recently they were minting up to 20% of all USDC that was being minted on a daily basis on behalf of Ripple's clients. So that's a crazy amount of volume that I don't know if Ripple can truly just turn all that off and turn it on their stablecoin to begin with. You have to have enough liquidity within that stablecoin to make it work all around. So I imagine it's going to be more of a gradual thing. But USDC, that's a big stablecoin. It's the second biggest one. And that's 20% is a large volume. I'm actually quickly looking up what the USDC market cap is, and it is let's see, 34 billion. So it's a lot. I don't know when that 20% started, how it ramped up for Ripple. He didn't get into that, but it's pretty cool to kind of see some behind the scenes of sorts, and kind of see how it plays out.
Yeah. I know we're going to get to this here in a second with our last bullet in terms of the stablecoin market, but
yeah, we can go and jump to that one too. Either way.
No, it's fine. I mean, I just we talked a little bit about XRP at the beginning with Bitwise, right? The asset manager, they have an ETF out there in Bitcoin. They're in the process of trying to get now one through for XRP. Now you see, Ripple in the news in terms of what Garlinghouse said about volume, and then we're going to talk about this Stripe acquisition here in a minute. But I mean, I want to ask you more of an analysis question on some of these headlines. When you think about all the news in crypto, still largely revolves around Bitcoin. You hear about Ethereum as well, and we talked about this over probably several months. Explaining the use case for Ethereum was going to be a lot more complicated. And it seems like if we see more tokens, more cryptos that go down this path of becoming more available to the masses through through ETFs, I'm curious how Ripple, because you have Garlinghouse and he's kind of that spokesperson. You don't see that as much with Ethereum, like with one individual kind of synonymous with with the token. I'm curious, like, what's the narrative around Ripple and XRP more specifically?
Man, there's a lot of baggage. I mean, before I answer that, I'll quickly say if there's one individual around Ethereum, it's certainly Vitalik, the guy that started it.
Sure.
Or potentially Joe Lubin.
He's just kind of mercurial. Like he's just, he comes out, he tweets, I guess he's probably a very well-known personality,
within the space, very
executive within the space, but highly technical around projects and around like, you don't see, he's not the person that's going to come on Squawk Box, right? He's not the person that's going to come on Fox Business, right? Or at least maybe he's been invited. I don't know, but
I just think
Garlinghouse is different though.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly cut from a different cloth.
Right.
Vitalik is very much this is a compliment. He's a nerd and he has no interest in the suits and the TV stuff, as far as I can tell.
Right.
What he's, I guess, done to this point. So to your question about Ripple and XRP, and just it is rather uncommon in the crypto space to have such a large company basically attached to the hip with a network like XRP. There's a few other cases where it happens because these networks just don't pop out of thin air. They have to come from somewhere. But this is the second ever crypto to exist. I mean, like it's an OG in that sense. And it's had a lot of evolutions, but it's had a lot of baggage, man. Like a lot of negative FUD about it. And that's even before the SEC stuff started. And then you kind of pile all that onto this. It's exhausting. Ripple has a vision for that network. I would say part of the community does not agree with it. in some sense, they want just the opposite. They want Ripple to go away. There's been a functioning fork of XRP called ZAO that's different. It's adding some other features. I actually think it's healthy. You start to see some stuff built that could be come back to XRP, the ledger, and vice versa. I don't know. It's Ripple's fighting a huge fight, right? And I think what gets lost in it is they're doing all that work, and then people don't like what they're doing. Well, guess what? They're the biggest influence in the space for XRP. They kind of get to do what they want to do. In some sense, they're earning the right. And I don't think people view it that way. Granted, it's a network and anyone can use it. So fine, go build something on it if you want to, or go build on a different network. It's not like you have to be here. But at the same time, people are like holding their XRP and just being like, what Ripple does is what the course of the network is, and it's partially true. So
yeah,
we'll see. Time will play out. We'll get to the court case here with the appeal, which I guess we can go and kind of start answering. But like,
yeah,
it's not over. We got another year or two left in this, unfortunately, unless some kind of administration change and the SEC decides to get it off its plate and kind of
look for a settlement,
which to me is probably more likely than seeing this thing run the distance for 2 years. Would be my guess. So, but we will see. So yeah, this.
Well, and the folks, I was going to say this third to last one in terms of the filing of the Form C in their Ripple appeal, they have to go. They being the SEC, they have to go through a formal process. They had to meet a specific deadline. They did file ultimately a little late, but not
a whole day late.
Yeah,
and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, maybe this gets dismissed because of this," and then like nothing has happened in the negative sense. So they filed. Basically, they're just appealing the. To be clear up front, what they are not appealing is the thing where the judge said XRP is not a security. That's functionally not appealable because she didn't really rule on it. She just kind of wrote on it. But what is being appealed is Ripple's sales of XRP on exchanges, XRP as a payment in kind, and some other stuff, really just around the Ripple's use of it in the early days and how they were helping try to functionally bootstrap the network, and they were selling it and different things. We talked about it last time because we were waiting on the appeal to come, and it came 2 days later. But the SEC, I mean, they're in a weak position to begin with. 10% of these cases are ever won on appeal. And, they weren't in a strong position when this case finished. It wasn't like it was that much of a split decision. So it will be interesting. Ripple has until I think today or tomorrow to file they've cross appealed the stuff that they lost on. Because if you're going to be in the fight, you might as well be all the way in it, I guess is the thinking. And we'll see. But currently all of the attorneys on Twitter that follow this stuff are like the SEC is making an even bigger mistake, because what's going to happen is this is going to get really codified to the point where it's going to be hard for them to, assuming it goes the distance, that other court cases that they may be in will use this as precedents and be like, listen, this is a lot of other cases won't be able to happen effectively. So,
and you think that applies to crypto specific cases or other securities cases more broadly?
I haven't heard anything more about anything outside crypto. It's more specific to crypto because we don't feel like we're defined correctly in the law. The SEC is trying to cram crypto into a securities box, and when it's not really a box, so maybe crypto is more of a triangle or something else. So,
sure,
you have that issue. So,
and then the second to last headline, or Vice President and presidential candidate Kamala Harris is considering a couple of nominees. There's a couple of candidates that are being vetted whose names are out there in the public. So you would think that these nominees, should she win the presidency and take office, replace Gensler, the current SEC chair, with one of these two candidates. What is your what is your read on the two, Chris Brummer and Erica Williams? I think one of them is currently a legal professor at
Georgetown,
DC. I was going to say DC University, Georgetown, and then the other one is it running the PCAOB? Is that what
correct.
I read?
Yeah, that's
so
correct.
The public accounting oversight board, effectively.
Yeah, I know nothing about Erica, so I have to be just say that up front. I've never run across her in crypto stuff. And granted, the SEC is far bigger than crypto. So, but we're looking at it in this very narrow lens. I will say up front, Kamala has not said that she will get rid of Gary Gensler. Like, so the possibility that he stays on is an option. Trump has said he'll be gone day one. I don't think if Trump wins, there's not a chance that Gary even gets a chance to be fired. He's going to leave on his own. There's no doubt about that. But when it comes down to Chris Brummer, he's interesting. He runs a podcast that is called, I should have wrote this down. Let me look it up real quick. That talks about financial news and FinTech Beat, and is the name of the podcast. He has guests on that are talking about crypto or just other fintech stuff. Mm-hmm. It's a well-run podcast. I think that he's very knowledgeable on the topic. I think I say this with a lot of hesitation because I thought Gary was going to be a good option when he came in too. But he seems like he would be a chairman that might understand that we need rules, because he's literally said that on the podcast. Again, Gary said the same thing when he was in MIT. So the rubber would have to meet the road and see what actually happened. But there could be worse choices than Chris, for sure. That would have no crypto knowledge and come in and potentially just be worse or more of the same. So, yeah. You have any thoughts?
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, we talked about this last week, and there's been a ratcheting up of, I think, coverage. Our whole podcast is kind of taking what's out there in the broader news media crypto cycle and sort of trying to distill down what are 5 to 7 news items that caught our attention. What caught my attention is how the corporate executives in this election cycle are noticeably silent around which candidate they want to back. They might be saying it privately. I think I saw a couple of reports this morning that Jamie Dimon, CEO of the largest bank in the country, JP Morgan, has said privately, according to these reports, that he supports Harris, but publicly has come out more in support of Trump. And the analysis of this, I guess, and where this relates to us is, I think there's this, potential fear or concern that there could be backlash depending on which candidate wins. And so nobody 100%. Wants to be, nobody wants to put themselves, out there, if you will, on an island and potentially be the company or the industry, depending on which candidate wins, that is all of a sudden in the crosshairs, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, and it could be that the CEO wants to say something and his board is saying, do not. Right. It could be a lot of mixture. I was just kind of rereading, scanning this article about Chris Brummer, and a source in it was saying how on paper, Brummer is more qualified than Gary and would be the biggest peace offering to crypto the Harris campaign could bring up. Again, a lot of what ifs there. But be interesting to see it play out. So,
well, look, I think we're kind of entering that part of the race. It seems like, we're down to a couple of weeks. And so nobody's going to want to have a foot fault, to use the tennis analogy. Yeah. So I would think anybody whose name is put out there for any type of cabinet level position is somebody that the administration or the, I guess the candidates, team has done a fair amount of work on, and there's not some big surprise that is going to jump out. And, again, how many voters are really going to make their decision based on who the potential SEC chair is? I think the interesting piece is, in the battleground states where the election likely is to be determined, there's 8 of them. Yeah. Are those states where there's a voter population that is, got crypto in the first, second, or third issue in terms of importance, that could potentially swing it one way or the other?
Agreed.
And I know the poly market, the prediction market, where people are betting, Trump is running away with it, right? He's up 20+%. I think I saw last night, 60+% to 30-some%. Right. I know I've seen headlines, and there's a lot more of the institutional and investor community now starting to dig into these prediction markets and trying to determine, is there truth in these types of markets? Have they had success in predicting outcomes in the past? The reality is they have, from what I can tell. So where crypto and politics intersect isn't always, what are our friends at the SEC not doing to promote
Correct.
our industry? Sometimes it's like, what is just the general public or the voting public
Mhm.
that's willing to bet dollars or invest dollars? And who knows who's influencing these or
Mhm.
not? There could be some big wallets out there, big investors that are making big bets on, say, a Trump win that are, swaying
Mhm.
the votes one way or the other, or outcomes one way or the other. But it is interesting, and we're only at the election of 2024, and I think, what's it going to look like in 4 years, 8 years, 12 years? When
Yeah.
you think about um, crypto and blockchain and all the advances
Yeah.
we've seen just in the last couple of years.
Yeah, there was on the topic of the betting market saying Trump's running away with it, because obviously there's been a lot of money on both sides, but specifically on
Sure.
Trump's side in this case. There's like a Kamala, one of her surrogates, was out I think yesterday saying that, oh, they believe it's a bunch of international money. I'm like, you just don't know what to believe. I mean, it could be in crypto. It could be a bunch of North Korean crypto coming in trying to
Yeah.
manipulate the market.
Right.
So who knows? But we will.
Yeah.
We'll know who's the winner. Hopefully in 2 weeks. Hopefully
Yeah.
it's not longer than
Yeah.
that. So yeah.
Well, this last one on a, I think, a positive note for the venture capital industry, particularly the crypto venture industry, and then
Yep.
also you brought up and could probably illuminate, Stripe, this big
Mhm.
fintech player, went quiet for some time with respect to
Yeah.
crypto. Tell us more.
Yeah. So they allowed crypto payments over 6 years ago, and then for a while. And granted, crypto was much smaller back then, so not much. I
Right.
can't imagine tons of volume. It got turned off for whatever reason. I don't remember them actually even announcing why it got turned off. And then a month ago, they turned on the ability to pay with stablecoins. And then within the last week, they made an acquisition of Bridge. It's a stablecoin fintech platform for $1.1 billion. That's a lot of money. That is the biggest acquisition in the crypto space, full stop, to date. So in a moment where, granted, it likely, if we get legislation at some point, the first thing that will happen is stable coins. But like, they're spending that much money in a market that is basically unregulated. And you would assume it goes good, but it also could go very bad. And, just seeing them step up and trying to integrate it, obviously they have a vision here. It's not just they're just doing it willy nilly to spend $1.1 billion. So, yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a positive for crypto VC. You and a couple of other folks were on a digital assets panel that we did for CIFA,
Yep.
earlier this year in the spring, I believe. And I think one of the speakers was in crypto VC, and we talked about exits and where's the liquidity, right, in these crypto venture bets. And there has not been a lot of opportunity to exit via tokens. And so that has been largely kind of off the table as a form of exit. So to see a big M&A transaction in the market, I think is a feather in the cap for the space. I don't know if it, addresses the fact that crypto VC, fundraising is probably down like the broader industry
Mhm.
as the VC market kind of goes through a thaw. But
Yep.
but it is, it is a notable and a big deal for the industry. And I know we were talking before the show about like the infrastructure that they do provide. So maybe next week we can talk more about this as some
Yeah.
of the analysis comes out about Bridge, and kind
Yeah.
of where they fit into the overall kind of stablecoin ecosystem, which is
Yeah.
expected to be pretty big. I think I saw a headline that Matt Hogan of
Yeah.
Bitwise expected by 2026, stablecoins could exceed $1 trillion in overall, I guess, volume.
Yeah. Because he was saying, my guess is, I don't know what time, what he's saying there. Is it flows? Is it minting? Like, what is he really saying there? But it'd be interesting to kind of understand that sound bit, or excuse me, that quote a little bit more. So,
Sure.
anyways, well, thanks for joining us on this episode of the Weekly Crypto Check-In. If you want to stay updated on future episodes, you can find us in any podcast player by searching Teton Crypto Capital or the Weekly Crypto Check-In. Take care.